All right, welcome to another deep dive.
It's great to be here.
Today, we're going to tackle something that can honestly make or break your fluency in English. Idioms.
They're so important.
We've got all these sources. I'm looking at them right now. They're stacked up.
Wow.
And we've got 12 common but kind of tricky phrases to unpack.
Ooh, good ones.
Oh, yeah. Ready to sound less like a textbook and more like someone who, actually hangs out with native speakers.
Absolutely. I think this will be fun.
So first up is this idiom, a blessing in disguise. It's all about finding the silver lining when things go, totally wrong.
Exactly. It's when something seems really bad or unlucky at first, but then, surprise.
Surprise!
It has good consequences.
Our source uses this example. Someone's losing their wallet.
Oh, no.
Total nightmare, right? But
Yeah.
then they find a gift card they'd totally forgotten about.
Oh, wow.
So boom.
Blessing in disguise.
Blessing in disguise. I love that.
Yeah.
It's it reminds us that even when things seem awful, something good might come out of it.
Perspective is key. Setbacks can actually sometimes lead to some pretty cool, unexpected opportunities.
Right. The source even suggests actually writing down a time when something bad happened to you, and then try to see if anything good came out of it.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. And then you can even tell a friend about it using the idiom.
Oh, that's great. Sharing those personal stories can really make these phrases stick. It's not just a definition in a book anymore. It's connected to your life.
Next up, beat around the bush. I bet we've all experienced this.
Oh, for sure.
Those people who just cannot seem to get to the point.
It's classic, right? They're dancing around something,
Oh, yeah.
usually because they're a little hesitant to deliver bad news.
Or maybe address something sensitive.
Right, exactly. They create this maze of words to avoid the real issue.
In our source, there's this example of someone in a meeting, and they're going on and on about all these little things with the project.
Right, the side issues.
But they're not tackling the main problem.
Avoiding it.
Have you ever seen that?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, it's frustrating, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's why understanding the idiom is so helpful.
Yeah.
You can recognize it when it's happening and maybe even handle it better.
Right. If you're the one doing the beating around the bush thing,
No,
ask yourself, what am I avoiding here?
that's a good question.
Right. And if someone's doing it to you, well, maybe gently guide them back to the point.
Be direct, yeah.
So to practice this one, the source says to actually role play.
Oh, fun.
Right. Like language improv. One person avoids a question, the other tries to get them to spill.
I love that. It takes it out of the theoretical and makes you actually use it.
Okay, now for one that takes some courage, bite the bullet.
Ooh, yeah.
Those moments when you just have to face something difficult head on. No escaping.
Just do it. It's about confronting that task, even if it's something you've been dreading. You can almost feel the tension in that phrase, right?
Yeah. Our source talks about finally biting the bullet and scheduling that dentist appointment
Oh, yeah.
after weeks, maybe months of procrastination.
Been there.
Right.
Ugh. Sometimes the anticipation is worse than the actual event,
Oh, definitely. And this idiom kind of highlights that, delaying the inevitable. It just makes things harder.
Right, you're just prolonging the agony.
Biting the bullet, even though it might not be pleasant, it gives you that feeling of you're in control.
You're taking charge, not letting fear win.
I like how the source suggests making a list of things you've been avoiding,
Okay.
and then just tackling one of them today. And when you tell someone about it, use bite the bullet to describe your bravery.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Celebrate the small victories. It's a great way to start using these idioms naturally. You're not just memorizing, you're doing.
All right, now for one that's all about making those sometimes awkward social situations a bit easier, break the ice.
Ooh, yes.
This first interaction, when you're meeting new people,
It's about easing that tension, making everyone feel more comfortable.
the source gives this example of someone at a party.
Okay, classic party scenario.
Right, and they break the ice by asking everyone to share their funniest childhood memory.
Oh, I love that. Instant conversation starter.
Right, and it works because it creates common ground. Everyone can participate.
Exactly. It's like a little signal, hey, let's connect, let's have fun.
Right. So for practice, they say to actually think of a question or funny comment you could use.
In real life.
Yeah, next time you're in a new group.
Ooh, that's good. Be prepared.
Right, so you can break the ice.
I bet that makes those initial interactions so much smoother.
Yeah. All right, now for an idiom that is super satisfying to use,
Mm.
Hit the nail on the head.
Oh, yes.
It's that feeling when someone perfectly captures a thought. Like they just get it.
Totally accurate, insightful, it brings clarity.
Our source gives this example. When you said we need better teamwork, you really hit the nail on the head.
Boom. Got it.
Right. They pinpointed the core issue, like with laser precision.
It's so validating when someone does that, you
Uh,
know? Whether they're identifying a problem or expressing an idea you've been struggling with.
It's like they put your thoughts into words.
Yes.
So next time someone nails it in a conversation, use the idiom. Show them you're following along and you appreciate their insight.
And subtly show off your awesome idiom skills.
Exactly.
You're not just understanding, you're using them.
Okay, are you ready for one that can lead to some maybe awkward moments?
Uh-oh. What is it?
Let the cat out of the bag. Oops. Secret's out.
Oh, no, that's a good one. It's when a secret gets revealed, usually by accident. And it usually has consequences.
Right, like that little surprise that was supposed to stay hidden.
Poof, gone.
The example they give is about a surprise party getting ruined.
Oh, no.
Someone let the cat out of the bag.
That's the worst.
Now, imagine if you were learning English and had never heard of a surprise party before.
Oh, right.
You'd be so lost.
It wouldn't make any sense. That's a great point. Idioms often rely on cultural knowledge, things that aren't always obvious if you're not from that culture.
Right, it's not just about the words, it's about understanding what they mean in context.
Yeah, the shared assumptions.
So, to help us really get this one, the source suggests actually acting out scenarios where a secret gets spilled.
Fun.
Right? Maybe you're planning a surprise for a friend and you accidentally say something.
Oh, no.
It might seem silly, but doing it can really help cement that idiom in your mind.
You're experiencing it, not just memorizing it.
Okay, time for a quick one. Once in a blue moon, we've all heard this, but like, how often does a blue moon actually happen?
Well, astronomically speaking, a blue moon is when there's a second full moon within a single month.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty rare.
And that's exactly what the idiom means. Something that happens very, very infrequently. The source gives an example, like someone saying, I only go hiking once in a blue moon.
Right. It's a nice way to emphasize that something doesn't happen often without being too formal or negative, you know.
Yeah.
It adds a little whimsy to the language.
Right, right. To practice, they recommend thinking about things you rarely do
Okay.
and describing them with once in a blue moon.
That's fun. It can make even the most mundane things sound more interesting. It makes you think about how idioms add that extra color, that personality to how we speak.
Okay, next we're tackling one that can be confusing if you're not, familiar with the imagery. The ball is in your court.
Ah, yes. It's a classic way of saying, okay, it's your turn.
Responsibility has shifted.
Exactly. You have to make a decision or take action. And the imagery, of course, comes from tennis. Once the ball lands on your side, you got to respond.
Right. The example they give is this work scenario. I've done all I can for the project. Now the ball is in your court. No pressure.
Right. It's clear, though. It lays out the roles and expectations, especially in teamwork or negotiations. It avoids that direct confrontation.
Yeah.
You're not telling someone what to do. You're just stating a fact.
Right. For real-life practice, they say to pay attention to moments when responsibility shifts.
Ooh.
Whether it's at work, a group project, even just deciding where to eat dinner.
Right, right.
And that's when you can use the ball is in your court to politely, acknowledge that change.
It's a subtle way to manage those expectations and keep things moving smoothly.
Feeling a bit under the weather today. Well, lucky for you, there's an idiom for that.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
Under the weather is a great way to say you're not feeling well. Usually when it's nothing too serious, it's just a little more interesting than saying sick.
Our source gives this simple example of someone saying they stayed home because they were feeling under the weather.
Right. No need to go into the gory details.
Exactly. It's polite. And I like that it's kind of metaphorical,
Yeah.
You're not literally under the weather, but you're feeling its effects.
Right, like the weather's got you down a little bit.
To practice this one, they recommend just using it next time you're feeling a bit off. Just say, I'm feeling a bit under the weather.
Perfect. It gets the message across without making a big deal out of it.
Right, right.
It's interesting. This idiom can also be used metaphorically to describe anything that's not quite right, not functioning at its best.
Oh, like you could say, the economy's feeling a bit under the weather lately.
Exactly. It adds that extra layer of meaning.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to one that I bet you've used yourself. Spill the beans.
Ooh, yes. This is all about revealing a secret. Often accidentally, sometimes intentionally. but usually one is supposed to stay hidden.
Like dropping a container of beans and they all scatter everywhere?
They can't get them back in.
Exactly. The example in our source is about someone begging another person not to spill the beans about a surprise wedding proposal.
Oh, high stakes.
High stakes. Imagine learning this idiom without knowing what a surprise party or a wedding proposal is.
You'd be so confused. It just shows how important cultural context is when you're learning a new language.
You gotta know the concepts behind the words to really get it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not just the words themselves, it's the whole picture.
So the source suggests this fun game to practice.
Oh, tell me.
You create a little detective game with friends. Someone tries to get others to spill the beans about a made-up surprise.
I love that. It's lighthearted, but you get to explore the idiom and the whole idea of secrecy.
Right, and it encourages creative thinking and role-playing, which is always a good thing.
It makes learning more fun, too.
All right, ready for a confidence booster? Let's talk about a piece of cake.
Who doesn't love cake?
Right. We use this to describe something that's super easy to do, right?
Effortless. Like enjoying a delicious slice of cake. It evokes that feeling of ease and enjoyment, like no problem.
The example they give is about someone acing a math test,
Oh, nice.
finishing it super fast. That math test was a piece of cake.
I wish. It's a great way to express that you've mastered something, whether it's an exam or a project. It shows confidence.
It's framing it as a positive experience, not just an easy task.
Right.
The
Exactly.
source encourages using a piece of cake to, like, boost your own confidence when you finish something,
Ooh, I like that.
even small tasks.
Yeah.
It's a little affirmation that can actually change how you feel about things.
It can impact your motivation even. You're shaping your perception of it.
And now for an idiom that's definitely not a piece of cake. Cost an arm and a leg.
Oh, yeah.
This one hits close to home for anyone who's ever looked at a price tag and cringed, right?
It's a classic.
Yeah.
It's a funny way to say something is super expensive. Like you had to make a huge sacrifice to get it.
Right, like you had to give up a limb.
Exactly.
Oh.
Of course, it's an exaggeration, but it gets the point across. You're shocked, dismayed by the cost.
Our source gives us this example. Someone buying concert tickets that cost an arm and a leg, but they were totally worth it.
Worth the sacrifice.
Right. We've all been there, splurging on something we really want, even if it, breaks the bank.
It's a shared experience. It's like the idiom connects us.
So to practice, they recommend thinking about those things that always make you cringe at the price. Describe them with cost an arm and a leg.
Good way to vent about the cost of living.
Right.
It's funny how, even in something as simple as language, we find these shared experiences and ways to connect.
So we've covered 12 essential English idioms, but before you run off to sprinkle them into every conversation, we've got more to share.
Oh, there's more?
Oh, yeah. Our source material has some really fantastic tips on how to actively practice these idioms and make them a natural part of your everyday English. We'll dive into those after a quick. All right, we're back. So we've learned about these 12 awesome idioms, but how do we actually, start using them in real life?
That's the key, right? Putting them into practice.
Luckily, our source material has some really great tips for making those phrases stick.
Ooh, good. Because just memorizing them isn't enough, is it?
No, it's about actually using them, like making them a part of how you communicate.
Right. Making them natural.
The first tip they give is to keep an idiom journal. What do you think about that?
Ooh, I like that.
Hmm.
Especially for visual learners, I think that's a fantastic idea. It's
Yeah.
like having a dedicated space just for idioms.
Right. You could write down the ones you're learning, maybe jot down some examples, or even write some sentences using them.
Yeah, create your own examples. It becomes your own personalized idiom dictionary. And you can track your progress, see how comfortable you're getting with them.
Right, because writing things down, it really helps.
Oh, absolutely. It's active. You're not just passively reading a definition, you're really engaging with the language.
Our source also suggests watching movies and TV shows, but with an ear out for idioms.
Oh, that's a great idea. It's like immersive learning. You hear the phrases in natural context, so you get a feel for how native speakers actually use them.
And they even recommend pausing the show and practicing saying the idioms out loud.
Ooh, I love that. It might feel a little silly at first, but it gets you comfortable with the pronunciation, the rhythm of the phrase, and it helps train your ear to catch them in real life.
Right, you start noticing them everywhere.
Exactly.
And speaking of practice, they also say to make it a game with friends.
Oh, fun.
Right, challenge each other to use as many idioms as possible in a conversation.
Ooh, I like that. You could even award points for correct usage or like the most creative application.
Right. It's a way to turn language learning into a social thing, which can be super motivating.
Absolutely. It takes the
Wait.
pressure off and makes it fun. You can experiment and not worry about making mistakes.
Now, if you're more of a visual learner, the source recommends good old-fashioned flashcards.
Flashcards classic. They're simple, they work. You can write the idiom on one side, the meaning, and an example sentence on the other.
And you can review them anywhere, anytime.
Perfect for those little pockets of time, like waiting for the bus or something.
Keeps those idioms fresh in your mind.
Repetition is key.
Now, this next tip is for anyone who likes to write. Try writing a short story, but you have to use at least 5 of the idioms we've covered.
Ooh, that's challenging. I like it. It's a creative way to put your knowledge into practice.
Right. You're not just passively learning definitions, you're actively using them, weaving them into a story.
It's like a puzzle, right? How can you incorporate break the ice and cost an arm and a leg into the same narrative?
Exactly. You have to think outside the box, consider all the different ways those idioms can be used.
And in that process, you're really internalizing those meanings, making them a part of your active vocabulary. So we've covered 12 powerful idioms and some awesome strategies for mastering them.
But before we wrap things up,
There's more.
oh yeah, our source has a few final takeaways that I think really highlight the bigger picture of what it means to understand and use idioms. It goes beyond just vocabulary building.
Ooh, interesting. I'm intrigued.
Let's dive into those. So our source material, they make this point that, learning idioms, it's not just about expanding your vocabulary.
Right. It's so much more than that.
They say it's about gaining a deeper understanding of how language reflects culture,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
history, even humor.
It all ties in.
They say these phrases are like little windows
Oh,
into the heart of a language.
I love that because idioms, they often capture those shared
Well,
experiences,
well,
values,
yeah.
even historical events like take bury the hatchet.
Okay.
It means to make peace and a conflict, right?
Right.
But the imagery, it comes from Native American tradition
Oh, wow.
of actually burying weapons as a symbol of reconciliation.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah,
So you're not just learning a phrase,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
getting a glimpse into a cultural practice.
exactly. And that's what makes language learning so fascinating,
Right.
You're not just learning words, you're learning about different ways of seeing the world.
Yeah. Our source also talks about the role of humor in idioms.
Oh, interesting.
They say that many of them, they use playful language, unexpected imagery to make a point.
Right, like they're not always literal.
Yeah. Like, think about kick the bucket. It's a pretty blunt way to say someone died.
Right, it's not exactly polite.
Right, but there's a kind of dark humor to it,
Yeah.
that reflects a certain, cultural attitude towards death.
Right, it's like using humor to deal with something difficult, uncomfortable.
Right, exactly. And by understanding that humor that's in idioms, you're getting to a deeper level of cultural understanding.
It adds a whole other dimension, yeah.
So as we wrap up our idiom adventure today,
I feel like we've been on a journey.
our source leaves us with one final thought-provoking question.
Ooh, okay. Hit me with it.
They ask, what other English idioms do you know? And how do they reflect the unique culture and humor of the language?
That's a great question. It makes you want to keep exploring, even after this deep dive is over.
Right, and it encourages us to not just learn idioms, but really think about what they mean.
Yeah, where they come from, what they tell us about the culture.
Maybe make a list of your favorites or the ones that, you find confusing.
Ooh, yes. Or the ones that make you laugh.
Right, think about their origins, the imagery.
The stories behind the words.
We've just scratched the surface of this topic today, but hopefully, this gives you a starting point.
Absolutely. It's a jumping off point.
The more you explore those quirky phrases, the richer your understanding of English will become.
And who knows, you might even start using them yourself more.
Right. Add a little color to your language.
Make it more fun.
So go out there and have fun with it. And if anyone gives you a confused look when you use an idiom, just tell them you're hitting the nail on the head. They'll be impressed. Trust me.
Happy idiom hunting.